Welcome to another episode on our channel. I am back. The last time I hosted an episode was with regards to putting supports on your 3D models, your STL models, in order that they will print properly. But after my wife saw the video, she said, "Hey, why don't you tell them what else they will need besides software and a printer?" And I thought, that's a great idea. Why didn't I think of that? Mostly because she's smarter than me. Um, so there's things that you need, and I mean need, not want, or, oh, gee, that'd be nice to have. Things that you need that you don't know until after you buy your printer. You think, oh man, I didn't know this. If I had known this, I wouldn't have gotten into printing. Some of you have already commented and go, printing, yeah, man, I'm just going to buy my printed models, or maybe I'll put off getting a printer because it's more than I thought. Well, if I didn't scare you off with regards to putting supports on the model, today's episode will scare you off. We've never done a top 5 or top 10 or top whatever episode. So today I'm going to show you, or hopefully illustrate, the top 10 things that you need in order to do resin 3D printing. And again, these are not luxuries. You've got to have these things. You have to have these things. Not included in the top 10 list is some idea of where you're going to do your 3D printing. I have the luxury of having an attached double garage with a built-in workbench and workstation. But not everybody has that luxury. Maybe you're in a one-bedroom apartment. So you have to engage in a little bit of catastrophic thinking. What would happen if you spilled a gallon of resin? What would happen if you spilled a 7-liter container of alcohol that you use to clean your models? What would happen then? What would happen to the floor? What would happen to the workbench work area? Do you want resin in your carpeting, on your travertine tile, on your hardwood floors? That's what we have in our house. This table is older than my wife and myself put together. I'm pretty sure resin or even alcohol on it would be very bad, especially for me. So you have to engage in a little bit of catastrophic thinking. You also have to be conscious about heat source, climate controlling. And again, those are two things, work surface and the room that you print in, that you have to take into account. If you can't, and you will spill resin eventually, whether you like it or not. The vat that the resin sits in could fail through no fault of your own. So you have to engage, like I said, in a little bit of catastrophic thinking. And if you look around to all the rooms in your house and go, no, I can't have resin on this, my landlord will kill me, my wife will kill me, my significant other will kill me, then you might just not want to watch the rest of this video. But if you have someplace in your house that you think, okay, if the worst case scenario happens, unfortunate, but it will be okay eventually. So, like I said, the only place in our house for that is the garage. And the original plan was to shoot the rest of this segment in the garage. Well, what I didn't plan on was the fact that everybody's getting home from work right about now. And so the street is busy. My garage door is, even though it's a double garage door, it's a one-piece garage door. And it's just the thickness of a little bit of plywood between the sounds of the street and the inside of the garage. So we'll just go ahead and continue here. So what we're gonna do is, for the first time, we're going to do a top 10 list. It's artificial. I think only the last 2 things on my list are of the most important. Everything else would be kind of random, but the last two are going to be pretty important. So with that, let's get started. Okay, number one, as obvious as it might sound, you're going to need resin. And resin is by far the most expensive expendable you will have, and you'll probably go through it much faster. Well, it depends. That's not true. I was going to say that you're probably going to go through it much faster than you think. But if you're only printing small things like maybe 1/6 scale firearms or swords or boots or whatever it is that you think that you want to specialize in or at least get started with, that will make a jug of resin last a very long time. But when you start getting into things like this, this is the torso for the Thor head, remember that we did the supports for? This came out okay-ish. I'll get into that later. But when you start doing things like this, you'll start using resin at a significantly faster rate. I mean, there's, I don't know, 30, 40 gun, 1/6 scale pistols in here easily. So bigger will mean that you use resin faster. And I use, this is not an endorsement, I'm not getting paid by 3D Resin Solutions. I'm just telling you what works for me and for my printers. And some resins will work better in some printers than others. They just will. I like this stuff. It is the brand new product line. It's called Hero HD and gray in color, and it's by 3D Resin Solutions. This stuff is not cheap. This was about, if I remember right, about $240 for a gallon. I don't know, just feeling it slosh around right about here. Very thick container because you don't want sunlight getting to it and making your resin into a solid. That's not a good thing. But anyway, this is what I won't even say I recommend. I'm say that this works for me and my Anycubic Mono X resin printer. Really, really happy with the results so far. Print times went from 4 seconds per layer, and I think this was better part of 1,300 layers, from 4 seconds per layer to 2.5 seconds per layer. So if time for you is an issue, this can help with that. What else can I say? Oh, the detail is really, really good. And this is what's called a tough resin. Tough resin, I think I covered this in the other episode. In fact, I know I did. Tough resins, you can bend things and within reason and they won't snap. A hard resin is pretty solid until it's not, and it snaps. So, number one thing that you'll need, and you'll probably have a little bit of sticker shock with at first, resin. Okay, number two on the list of things that you will need, paper towels. Lots and lots and lots of paper towels. These are shop towels. I don't use these very much. I'll use them if I want to wipe down a figure without marring it, because these, you can get these like in an auto parts store. Of course, you can get anything online on Amazon. But if you want just a roll, auto parts stores have them. They don't leave lint, and they're a lot tougher than the grocery store paper towels. Now, that said, what I use, and again, Bounty is not paying me to endorse their paper towels. What I find effective is a good quality paper towel. I find that I use, in the end, far fewer if I use a good quality absorbent paper towel than if I use the really, really, really cheap stuff that you can get at like a dollar store or whatever. I also like the paper towels that you can quarter. So rather than having a whole piece, use, well, you do quarter, you have it. Uh, but I go one further and I quarter it. I I picked up this habit uh, during the pandemic when you'd walk into the grocery store and there was 70 feet of empty shelves where the paper towels and toilet paper used to be. So those of us who were doing resin printing back then, we learned to be really OCD, obsessive compulsive about the use of paper towels. So not only did I buy paper towels that you get a half a sheet at a time, I found that you just tear the thing in half. You'd be surprised how much of a paper towel you don't use when you're wiping something off or wiping off a built plate for your printer or clean up a mess or any number of things. So good quality paper towels. And if you want to be just really anal retentive, go ahead and quarter them afterwards. This is the build plate for my printer. Now, as you saw in the previous episode, printer starts here and the model is attached to it. And when it builds, it rises, the LCD ultraviolet light goes off, makes a layer, goes up half a micron or 0.5 micron, no, 5 microns, prints another layer, so on and so forth. Now, when you have your masterpiece finished, you're going to need some place to put it, to work on it, to some place that won't contaminate your work area. So this is what I have done. What I have here is I think it's called Gladware. Get the stuff at the grocery store. I don't know, $5, $7, something like that. But to prolong the life of the container itself, I've lined it with aluminum foil. And then on top of aluminum foil, I put several layers of paper towels down. So this gets tossed before aluminum foil, and aluminum foil gets tossed before this becomes, and it will become eventually too contaminated to use. So what I do, it makes plenty of room. Now I have a safe, hands-free environment where I can scrape the print off the build plate. I can wipe it down safely, being hands-free. So combination of Gladware, aluminum foil, and several layers of paper towel so that you have a safe, hands-free environment to put your build plate when it's done printing. Okay, number 4 is alcohol-related expendables. I was sitting here thinking as I was saying that alcohol-related printing, but not that kind of alcohol. IPA alcohol, preferably 99% pure. You'll need alcohol on 2 levels. First is for your washing station. My washing station holds 7 liters. And this stuff, cheapest I can find it on Amazon, is about $35 for a gallon. But the good news is it'll last a long time before it gets too dirty to use. You'll also need a little bit of alcohol in a spray bottle. It's not exactly a small spray bottle, but you get the idea. And you're going to ask, why is that? And why is there a toothbrush here? Well, as aggressive as your washing station may or may not be, every now and then, when you pull it out, you let it dry, you're going to see a shiny residue. Maybe this good example here in these little cracks and crevices. So what you do is spritz it with a little bit of rubbing alcohol, and then take a toothbrush and holding the toothbrush away from you, you kind of scrub the alcohol and the resin and dunk it again, scrub it until it's not shining anymore. This toothbrush, I'm sure any toothbrush will work well. I'm actually kind of partial to these toothbrushes that have bamboo, believe it or not, bamboo bristles. It's hard to say, bamboo bristles. No idea what the shaft is made out of, but the bristles are actually bamboo. And because they're so fine, I find it does a little bit better job than a nylon toothbrush. Um, I would put a link to this below, but we got these so long ago. We got a bunch of them. I have no idea where we got these things from. So there you have it. Alcohol, number 4. Addendum to the rubbing alcohol. And this is kind of important because I almost screwed up royally. Okay, so even here in Southern California, my garage will get too cold to print. There's a range of temperatures where you can print. I think it's 65, maybe 70 degrees Fahrenheit up to including maybe 85, 90 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not a real big range, actually. So even here in Southern California, you can, at least my part of Southern California, we can get, 30, 35 at night. I know all my friends and family back home in the Midwest are going, 35 degrees in January is a heat wave. But trust me, 35 degrees here in Southern California, you would think Snowzilla hit. Anyway, I digress. Where I almost screwed up was I was going to heat up the work area around my printer. And so I bought this. I thought, oh, this is cool. It's a miniature propane heater, radiant heat. This will warm up my resin really well. It'll fit nicely on the workbench. And then I looked over at my processing station, which contains 99%, 7 liters of 99% pure rubbing alcohol. And I looked back at this thing and I went, wow, that was stupid. I kept the heater though. But no, don't use an open flame source for heat. If it's anywhere near your washing station, anywhere near gasoline or rubbing alcohol. Flash point is not as low, rubbing alcohol, but it's low enough where I almost screwed up. So what did I use to heat the garage? I bought one of those, it's an electric heater, it doesn't have an exposed element, but it's like an old style steam radiator, except it uses some sort of liquid. Anyway, it just heats what's on the inside of the radiator, and so there's no open flame, no open anything. So don't do what I almost did. Okay, we are at the halfway point. Number 5, sandpaper. Get to this in a second. Sandpaper is cheap. You won't go through a lot of it, even if you do a lot of printing. 400 grit sandpaper is about as aggressive. Let's see, 400 somewhere. It says 400 here somewhere, trust me. This is about as aggressive as I personally have found that I'm comfortable using. Anything, a smaller number on sandpaper means it's more coarse, it's less coarse, not more coarse. Smaller the number, the greater the coarseness. So 400 seems, for my purposes, kind of a sweet spot. But the thing that drives me nuts about sandpaper is that once you open the envelope or the container or whatever, stuff goes everywhere. It magically spreads out all over the inside of a drawer. And then I got to find, okay, well, that's 500 grit. I want 400 grit. No, I don't want to use the 320 grit. I want 400 grit. So what I found is one of these spring steel paper document clamps or whatever the heck you call them from the Office Depot or wherever, it does a wonderful job. Now, no more loose sandpaper. It's probably just, a quirk of mine, but it just drives me nuts. But this thing helps me keep my sanity. So, number 5, sandpaper. Okay, we are at number 6. Remember all those paper towels that I told you about that you can be using like crazy, even if you do buy the ones with the half sheets and then you tear the half sheets into have them against a quarter sheet? Well, eventually you're going to have to put those used nasty paper towels somewhere. And you're going to need, where is it? Oh, there we go. Going to need trash bag. Uh, so why am I even mentioning trash bags? Well, it's kind of like a duh type of thing. Here's the thing: don't go cheap on trash bags. I've had good luck with these Glad Force Flex. They don't rip or tear very easily. I hate putting resin filled paper towels into a trash bag. Often I will let the sun cure the resin in a controlled way as much as I can. But even then, it's got to go in the doggone trash. So good quality, solid trash bags. Don't go cheap. So number 6, trash bags. Okay, number 7, a funnel. Now, why would you want to use a funnel? You can use the conventional funnel, or you can use this funnel. I'll get to that in a second. Every now and then, like today, you have to pour your resin back into the big 1 gallon jug or the 1 liter bottle, whatever you have. So let me explain. This is a resin vat. So resin goes in here. As you can see, it's clear. Resin goes in, poured it into here. That build plate we talked about earlier, it sets itself down, makes a layer, raises up a little bit, makes a second layer. And underneath here is the LCD ultraviolet light. Really, really bright. Turns on for my resin for 2.5 seconds, sometimes longer. It depends on the resin you use. But every now and then, like today, you have to pour the resin back into the bottle. And we'll get to what, well, I'll tell you why. This has a hole in it. And that's a problem. Sometimes catastrophic proportions. So you're going to have a little bit of resin, solid resin in here. You need to scrape that off. You're going to pour it back. So what you have is one of these. This one fits nicely on the jug, but you probably can't see it. But trust me, there is like this ultra fine wire mesh on the inside. I mean, it's no idea how big the openings are. It does make pouring the resin back in slower, but it'll catch any of the stray cured clumps of resin when you pour it back in the bottle. Now you can use the conventional funnel, they work just fine. And the nice thing is, and I don't have any at the moment, they make a funnel filter. It's basically paper in the shape of a funnel. And that's my dog, not the little dog. Where was it? Oh yeah, it's roughly it is the shape of the funnel, but at the end it has the wire mesh, just like this one. It doesn't go any faster. It's just more forgiving in terms of when you dip or when you tip this end to pour the resin back out, less chance of spillage on the floor or workbench or whatever. So number 7, I had to look at my notes. I forgot where I was at. Number 7, funnels, specialized. All right, number 8, something called FEP. This is FEP, type of, I don't know what the heck you call it, resin vat holder. This is aluminum. Sometimes they're dark aluminum, sometimes they're plastic actually, but this is nice shiny aluminum. Even has a nice little mark on it where the maximum level is to pour once the build plate is inside. But every now and then, for whatever reason, you'll get a hole. And there is the hole right there. I think you can see it. Ooh, there you go. It's like a complex neurology test. So it was a small hole, but it was a hole nonetheless. And you will need new FEP. You can hear this thing? Maybe you can't. My sound filter might catch it. But it's on there like the head of a drum, very tight. It's about, takes me about 20 minutes to change one of these out. Bunch of screws holding it in, and then once that pops out, there's more screws, like 24 screws that hold it on the bracket itself. You're going to need this eventually. Something's going to go wrong. Whatever you do, don't do what I did this past summer. I had one of these, and I had it stored up in the attic of my garage. That was just stupid. Apparently, FEP does not like very hot temperatures. 3 weeks ago, Friday, it was 112 degrees here in my part of Southern California. And an attic, according to my HVAC guy, is ambient plus at least 30, 35 degrees. So it spent the summer up in my attic. That was stupid. And what happened is that my cat walked across. I swear we're not doing this. This is number 4 intrusion. Oh, anyway, as I was saying, I used this and I had a worst failure I ever had. What happened was not only there wasn't a pinhole, the entire side of the FEP broke loose and dripped and ran. So when I didn't know it was loose. I mean, I didn't know. I thought it was just a little pinhole. So when I picked it up, resin just gushed out. It was the worst spill I have ever had. So don't store your FEP in anything above room temperature. Okay, now we start getting into the ones that are very important, and do not skip on these, whatever you do, assuming that you want your health for the last one and you want to save your printer. So this is what my printer looks like, minus the translucent UV plastic see-through cover this thing has. So build plate, resin vat, and printer. So just today, well, yesterday, I started to do a second print today of the lower half of Thor's, there we go, of Thor's torso. It's a bust. I don't so it'd be, I don't know, legs chopped off a little, about mid-thigh or so. But anyway, so popped this off. It was like this, popped it off. I thought, oh man. So I looked at it, and let me get this thing back on. So I looked at it, and there's some minor imperfections here. Nothing I can't live with, nothing I can't patch. I'm going to save myself $5, almost $6 to print this one. But I thought, okay, well, oh, and it had build lines, very, very bad, visible build lines. Remember, this thing's printed at 5 microns. You should barely be able to see the build lines, if at all. And you not only could you see them, but you ran your finger over them. You could feel them. I go, what in the world's going on here? But 400 grit sandpaper, and that problem was solved as well. So let me take this off, put this out of here. So, okay, so what I did, I took my rubber soft spatula, because you don't want to poke a hole in your FEP, and I started stirring up my resin. You have to do that quite a bit in between prints, or if you let it sit for any time at all, so that the resin will print properly. And I ran my rubber spatula over something, and I thought, oh man, you can feel it. It was a little bit rough. And I thought, well, that's classic sign that something stuck to the FEP. So what I did, I did the thumb screws here, pulled it off, and I thought, oh, and I did my due diligence with pouring the resin back into the gallon jug. And then I looked down, and let's see if you can see this or not. Oh yeah, you can see that. That is cured hard resin. So number 9, this is screen protector. They're cheap. So that's not on my screen. If this was on my screen, my screen would be ruined. And my one gripe I have, and they're very few, but one gripe I have about the Anycubic printers is that the company tends to orphan the printers, and that includes spare parts. So I actually have, remember the catastrophic thing I had with the resin spilling out everywhere? Well, even the screen protector couldn't protect it. And I'm having a devil of a time finding a new LCD screen. The one place I can find them, they're almost as expensive as another printer. Now I'm not going to do that. So I left this on. I found this morning. I knew I was going to shoot this tonight. So the big unveil. Did the screen protector protect the LCD screen? I sure hope so. And it's just like a screen protector on your cell phone, on your smartphone. Oh, yeah. I didn't stage this. I have not pulled this off yet. It just happenstance. There you go. It's a lot of money for a new screen, not to mention time and the hassle putting the stupid thing in. Or I have no idea how much these things are. They're cheap. I mean, they're a little bit more maybe than an iPhone or smartphone screen protector. Not much, and they're custom made holes and everything for your printer. So, good. Whew. My screen protector, and I got a bunch more of them. I just got a bunch more of them last week. That was my last one. So, I am happy camper. Printer is saved, yet to print for another day. With any luck, I'll have something. Well, maybe in the morning. It's getting kind of late. So, number 9, don't not do it. Screen protector for your printer. And finally, number 10, which is personal protection gear. The only thing more important than protecting your printer that you saw just a moment ago with the screen protector is protecting you. Resin is toxic stuff. Even the water soluble stuff is still really toxic stuff. It just is. Like I said, it pains me to use paper towels and then knowing they're going to end up in a landfill. So I try to cure them as best I can. Same with the dirty alcohol, the IPA that's in the washing solution, the little machine that does the washing. But personal protection, that means eye protection. I use goggles. Actually, I couldn't find my goggles, so I brought this in for illustration purposes only. It actually does an okay job, but this was cheap. It was like $1.50 at Harbor Freight, maybe $2. I can't remember. We are all well acquainted with N95 masks. I wouldn't use anything less than an N95. When do you use this? Use it when you're sanding. You don't want that super fine cured resin going up into your lungs and nasal cavity. In fact, having said that, I am not as anal about using these things as I should. What I typically do is put my back to a very large shop fan and rely on that to blow stuff that way. But if I wasn't using a shop fan and this occasion, I would definitely have this on my face every time I sanded. It's just you don't need that. It's like talcum powder. Once you sand it with the 400 grit sandpaper, it has the consistency of talcum powder. It's very, very, very fine particulate matter. And last but certainly not least, disposable nitrile gloves. You'll go through a lot of these, but the good news is that they're cheap. Shop around. I don't know what they're on Amazon, what they're going for on Amazon, but I think I paid $7 or $8 for a box of 100 gloves. I got these at Harbor Freight. Better or for worse, I have a Harbor Freight store about 2 miles from my house. Sometimes I'm not a big fan of Harbor Freight tools, but their gloves are fine. These were a devil to find during the pandemic, as were the N95 masks. So we had to reuse them, wipe them off with alcohol, which was hard to find during the pandemic. So I think I used denatured alcohol. But anyway, I digress. Eye protection, hand protection. You'll use these every time that you handle a print or come near resin. You don't want that stuff on your skin. I have rather oily skin, so that's some protection, but gloves, don't not use them. So eye protection, mask when you're doing sanding, and gloves when you're handling anything at all close to the liquefied resin. So there you have it. All 10 things that you probably had no idea that you needed for resin printing. So I hope you've liked what you've seen. If you have, consider giving us a thumbs up and hitting the like button, or subscribe button rather. My wife does this so much smoother than I do. So in the meantime, everyone, have a great day.